Hey guys, it's Graham, and I have been talking for a couple of minutes without this dumb thing recording because that's the way it goes. Let's talk about this book, No Traveler Returns by Louis L'Amour. If you read the press copy on Amazon or a similar site, you get the impression that it's a bit of a suspenseful, sea based thriller about a ship called the SS Lycanfield hauling hazardous materials, in this case, a weapon called naphtha, 80,000 tons of it, gallons of it, a significant quantity of it, westward across the Atlantic. And while the sailors are all in danger, as is the way that you live when you're hauling hazmat, they also learn, or the reader learns, that their lives are intertwined. This is in the Lost Treasures series of Louis L'Amour books. These are complete manuscripts, or semi-complete. This one was finished and put together by his son Beau L'Amour, that have been published posthumously. Louis L'Amour was a tremendously prolific writer. He was constantly at it. There are even two collected volumes of incomplete pieces, sometimes just single chapters or a few paragraphs, of different types of stories that he started but didn't know what to do with. These are Lost Treasures Volume 1 and Volume 2. I'm currently reading Volume 2. Volume 1 was a best of year read for me in 2023. I've got a lot of notes and a lot of thoughts on that. I got to figure out how to condense it so that I don't do a 6-hour video on it. But this insight into the man's process is especially valuable to me as a writer, but just as a reader and a fan of his work, I still find tremendous value in it. And I've come to appreciate other books in this Lost Treasure series that Beau L'Amour has put together. I remember reading instances where either Louis or Beau referenced this book, and so I finally read it a year ago, and it really hit me close to home, because even though I've never been a sailor, there's a lot of overlap between that lifestyle and being a long haul trucker. I've been fortunate throughout the decade plus of my career to spend most of my time doing jobs that bring me home every day, and I'm still able to afford my lifestyle, and the wife and I are able to take care of the kids. But for a lot of truck drivers out there, they're gone for weeks or even months at a time, and they don't have tremendously strong relationships with their families. It's a type of work that is necessary for the developed world, but it's not a desirable lifestyle. And the same is true of sailing. But the difference is that the high seas are far more perilous than the highways, and so it is that sailors face mortality with higher regularity than truckers. Nevertheless, I found a gut punch in the overlap between L'Amour's trade and my own. The title refers to a Dante quote about death and hell, a place whence no traveler returns. And yet the seas aren't all that different in that they pull a man in, they call him back when he's on land, despite the anchors that on that land that call him home. L'Amour himself also almost became a full-time sailor and would have pursued an officer's berth or a captaincy if he hadn't moved his family to Oklahoma and started developing stronger roots here. With his son Beau being the curator of this Lost Treasure series of books, he's annotating them with information from his own childhood and his posthumous research into his father's voluminous archives. Like I said, this title was never published. Louis wrote it earlier on in his career and set it aside. The man was constantly writing. Not only does it give the L'Amour completionists something to enjoy, it gives a crucial insight into the mind of a young man at sea and the men with whom he sailed. Much like my reading experience with that book about the A-10 Warthog pilot, I think it was called Hogs in the Sand, or the man named Peterson, who was one of the early founders of the Top Gun school, I was particularly moved by a scene wherein the sailor came home after a long time away. His wife was almost bored with him and wanted him out, and his son had grown significantly in his absence. And this man saw what was happening when he wasn't home. He realized just what he was missing out on. So even though I have a home daily job, I work at least 50 hours a week, and I'm on the night shift. So while I'm home, I'm often asleep when my kids are awake, and I really felt that. I've noticed that recently as you've heard me comment on it. I dare say that Lamore got lucky by not going back out to sea. Surely he was happier as a full-time writer. More importantly, his family had him home, and now we've got this great series from his son who is keeping his father's work alive. Uh, you can only be so optimistic for the future before you really find yourself, digging in and doing the hard work of making that future a reality. So this was a great book. I really enjoyed it, and I think if you're a fan of Lamore, you should check it out and just see what kind of things he's able to stir up in you with this analysis of this way of life. That is, as always, a recommendation. Drive safe. See you out there.